China. Ah, see, something's going on there. This is going to be a very important video. And it's one that's tiring, and I'm just doing it for posterity, and we're going to throw it up there. And I know I'm not going to convince anyone, because people primarily on the left are like religious people. They choose to believe. They aren't proven to believe. They aren't proven to know. There's not empirical evidence. Leftists want to believe in socialism, so I'm going to cause them cognitive dissonance, which is the most we can hope for. We're going to use China today. So China's stock market is going through a collapse, and there's fear that the economy is going to collapse and all that. And the rush that is so predictable, because the leftist mind is so simple, is you're going to blame China's collapse on capitalism. You say, see, which everyone got their master's degree in sociology to go, you say, what? Do you hear that? You hear that off in the background? Those sociology majors, then it gets louder. Oh my gosh, shit, they're getting closer. Sure enough, they're in your face. And you try and spray them with empirical evidence, it doesn't work. They just give more. They get really pissed off when you try and tell them truth. Anyway, so it's more for our benefit and to cause them cognitive dissonance. So before we go blaming capitalism for the collapse of China, let's take a look at a couple of things. I'm even coming up with a list here, all right? Now, we all know about China building these entire ghosts. Because a free market, you know, you would wait for people to be in demand for houses before they buy the most expensive thing they're ever going to buy in their life, their home. But China didn't wait for that. Chinese government knew better than the 1.4 billion people that live there. They decided that they were just going to build entire towns. Did anyone ask for it? Did anyone want to fucking move there? No. So now you have these towns, some of them like the size of Minneapolis, that they're ghost towns. No one's living there. Now, that wasn't the free market, folks. That was government bureaucrats. Like, you know, it was the Chinese version of the sociology masters. And but they made it to the government in the China. So you had a bunch of Chinese sociology masters, which was Chinese sociology major politicians speak for, let's build a huge fucking city in the middle of nowhere that no one wants to live in because it'll jack up our GDP figures and make us look good to the capitalist pigs who run the real world. Well, so anyway, that was a government leftist decision. A huge wasting of Lord knows how many hundreds of billions of dollars. But that was not a mistake on the free market part. All right. Second thing, you have, like our central bank and all the other first world nations' central banks, you have the Chinese central bank flooding the market with currency. You look at the M1 or M2 money supply of China, it has gone up much faster than GDP. And as well as ZIRP, zero interest rate policy, or near zero interest rate policy. So the true cost of capital, the true cost of borrowing is masked. Of course, not individual investors can borrow at that rate, but these artificially low interest rates have triggered, like they have here, in our housing, in our education, our stock market, people to buy on margin, set up margin accounts in China, and drive the stock market up, regardless of what the underlying earnings was. Yeah, and it's a very interesting thing. I'll tell you another thing. It's harder than hell to find research and data on China when it comes to PE ratios on the Shanghai Index or whatever else have you. So, or Hang Seng, rather. But it's amazing how people just quote, free money in terms of no interest rate, and would just invest it in stock market because it's a stock market bubble. Well, was that the free market that artificially lowered interest rates so people could borrow at effectively 0% interest? No, that was, again, the government, okay? Communist, the state, socialist, government intervention, not the free market. Then you have some just outright, these are just douche moves, government douche move, total douche move. You have the Chinese government shutting down the stock market, shutting down trading. Another thing, you have the Chinese government banning press, media, or even individuals talking about the crash of the stock market. Hang on, right here. China's security, this is from what? Daily Finance. China's security regulators in its most dramatic step yet to arrest a sell-off on Chinese stock markets, banned shareholders with large stakes in listed firms from selling for the next 6 months. Does that sound like a free market? No, that's government fucking intervention. That's your team, leftists. That's your team, sociology majors. That's you guys. That is not capitalists. All right, so don't be telling me this is a free market. And then finally, and you can look it up because I forgot what percentage it is. How many of these companies are actual private companies or state-owned enterprises? What percentage of the Chinese economy is actually private is another, versus state-owned enterprises that take their orders not from supply and demand in the free market, not from what the consumers want, but rather what government bureaucrats and sociology majors going tell them to. Right? So the larger point, but I want it, the simple point, the simple fact, again, this is a bottle of iodine pills, this is a 223 bullet, this is Sergeant Rumpy Fluffalo, these are my goggles for my motorcycle. As simple as those facts are, it's as simple as a fact that the Chinese stock market collapse and potential economic collapse is not due to capitalism. It just isn't. You don't have a real free market. You don't have free market. What was it? It was on Alex Jones. They quoted some analyst, not some schmuck on the street, some analyst who says, well, we're waiting to see what the Chinese policymakers do to affect the stock market. It's like, that's not a market. That's not a free market if you're waiting for policymakers to do that. That's a controlled, communist, dictatorial market. There's no market. You can't even call it a market. It's a facade. It's a ruse. It's a pointless, futile exercise in socialism. You don't have a market. You call it something else, right? But whatever it is, don't call this capitalism. This is not capitalism. Right? And there's a lesson to learn as well here, people, because I know everyone thinks the United States is capitalist. I know you all think we're evil, greedy corporations. If the government did more. All right, let's look at the United States. Just a couple things for me to point out. Do you know what the percentage of GDP that government spends? You know what percent it accounts for? 40%. Does that sound... I mean, you look this shit up. Don't say, I don't believe you. Look it up. Okay, you don't believe me? Look it up. Well, that's right. You're sociology majors and leftists. You're too lazy to do that because you just like to live in your world where everything works the way you do and you don't have to work. But really, how can you claim an economy where 40% of the people fork over their lives, 40% of their lives to the state? That's a free market. And shit, that's out of all people. Half the people don't fucking work. All right? So you're talking for those who do work and pay the taxes, they're forking over more than 40%. Let's see. Does the government intervene in any of our... Oh, let me see. Do we intervene in the stock market? Yes, we have zero interest rate policy as well, quantitative easing, and the government, although well-intended, came up with this crazy idea that we should have 401ks and IRAs that kind of more or less tell people and give them a financial benefit to invest in the stock market. Well, people don't invest in the stock market anymore because of the underlying fundamentals of the company. They invest. I should invest in a 401k because the government and the HR lady told me to. It's very, very good. That's very true. Orman, I read, and Kramer, he said that if I throw my money in, the power of compound interest will grow and grow and grow. And everything is capital gains. What's a dividend? I don't know. The fucking dividend. Who cares about dividends? Earnings? What are earnings? So the government has come in, they've affected the student loan market. You guys wonder why tuition is so high. It's because we flood it with trillions of dollars of government loans. And then they're the ones that are guaranteeing that, lending you idiot kids to go and piss it away on your sociology degrees. And then you have the government also intervening in Freddie Mae. What was the percentage? I think it's some ungodly amount. Fannie Mae. CEO of the government. These two federal agencies, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, They account for 90% of the new mortgages being made. Oh, there's no fucking bubble. There's no gonna be secondary cousin. And don't tell me that's a free market. Don't tell me with the government coming in there and fucking financing and guaranteeing all these loans that doesn't have a. Don't tell me that's a free market. It's not a free market. That's not capitalism. Oh, what else? And then this whole bailout things. Remember how the banker scum were bailed out and the General Motors was bailed out? And I guess that, and, you know, we all hate the banker scum. Oh, banker scum being bailed out, they're scum. Oh, they're evil. I agree with you, they are evil. I probably would do a lot worse things to them than you would. But how is that any different than you welfare scum? The bankers made bad investments, lent out money that they were never potentially ever going to get back, and then people had kids and majored in stupid shit that they couldn't afford, and they invested in things that they could never potentially get back. And then we all file for bankruptcy, we go on welfare, we get WIC and EBT and all that. There's no difference. You're equally parasitical, you're equally scumbags, and you're equally costing the taxpayers money. Actually, the welfare recipients costed a lot more than the $1 trillion bailout we gave those banker scum through TARP. If you want to do the math, all right? I know math is hard, and we don't like facts, and facts are patriarchy. The whole point, though, is capitalism is like, hey, we don't give a flying fuck what happens to you. Yeah, everyone focuses on the profits of capitalism. No one focuses on the stock market crashes and people going into poverty because they made stupid fucking decisions, and businesses going out of business and banks collapsing because they lent to stupid businesses that made stupid business decisions. The government comes in and intervenes, and once the government intervenes or bails out, that is no longer capitalism, that is socialism. That is communism. That is the government picking and choosing winners and losers and intervening in the free market. And once they tip their little toe in there, it's no longer a free market. You cannot call what we have or what China has is capitalism. We haven't had it for a long ass fucking time. Right? So before you go, I know. Right now your brain is already running circles to try and invalidate what I'm saying here. And you're going to come up, well, yeah, but George Bush, racist, sexist, white male, and all the non sequiturs and whatever kind of weak-ass, pathetic, cognitive dissonant, leftist, liberal arguments you're going to pose now. But the reality is, and deep down inside, in your little frontal cortex there, you know it isn't capitalism, you know it isn't free markets. So we have a choice. We could continue on the leftist brainwash path of it. This is capitalism, and everything's evil white male's fault, and it's the corporations, and look at this, it's failing. Or we could start asking ourselves the questions, is this the consequences and the responsibility of government intervening when it shouldn't? If we just let this shit crash, if we just let things happen, and we wiped out the bankers, and we didn't bail out anybody, including the precious single moms, and maybe if we didn't give single moms money, they wouldn't have 14 more kids, maybe they'd stop at 2, maybe there wouldn't be generations of poverty after poverty, and maybe these banker scum wouldn't still be employed in the banks down the road that were bailed out instead of the one that the government didn't bail out. Maybe if we let people suffer the consequences of their stupid fucking mistakes and decisions, you wouldn't need government intervention all the time. Right? The solution is very simple. Go back to capitalism. Go back to free markets. And don't think that it's all got to be roses and flowers. Part of capitalism is sucking. Part of capitalism is failure. Part of capitalism is people going bankrupt and living in poverty and have their face smushed into pain and agony so they never make stupid fucking decisions again and they learn from their stupid mistakes. But you know what? Bail out the idiots of society. Bail out the banker scum. Bail out the welfare trash. Bail out the heroic single parents. Bail out the stupid, but they think they're so intelligent, masters of sociology, people with their worthless fucking degrees. Bail out the millennials because they didn't know any better and they followed the hearts of the mind. You bail them out. See where it gets you. Because thank God I'm about 50% dead. And if alcoholism catches up with me, by God, I'll be closer to 65-70% dead. And then you fuckers get to live with this mess that you made. I'll just be laughing my ass off watching you guys try and fight reality. It's very cute. So you go ahead, blame capitalism all you want. You're wrong. It's like blaming someone who has a brain tumor, like cancer in the brain, blaming it on a toenail fungus infection. You go ahead and misdiagnose all you want. Because in the end, you're going to be wrong and the patient's going to die. And I'm going to laugh my fucking ass off at all of you. Toodles.